Okay, good morning, Gotham. How are you this morning? I know you're up
I'm
bright
great.
and early.
I like it. I'm an early riser, so all
Yeah,
good.
that's good. That's good to
Yeah.
hear. Congratulations on this series. I got to tell you, it's riveting. Full disclosure, I am not a fan of this kind of sport. Maybe just because I'm a mom and I don't get it. I just don't get it. But tell me a little bit about how you connected with Conor. I mean, after watching this, I think I kind of get it a little bit better now.
Yeah. By the way, that's the greatest compliment. That's what we always say is that's exactly what we're aiming for. And I echo that. I'm a dad. I was never a big UFC fan. It's violent,
Yeah,
it's pretty gruesome. Um, and yet there's something very primordial about it. And I think that's kind of what fascinated me about it is like meeting like in general, what kind of person is willing
exactly.
to go into an octagon and really do this for a living? I mean,
Yeah.
and there's something just really, like I said, primordial about it. Two people get into a ring, one person comes out. What does it take? And then you have, arguably one of the greatest fighters in the history of the sport. So it's just sort of fascinated by that psychology. And then when I met him,
Mm.
I realized like, oh, he is like a showman and he's a gladiator and all of that sort of stuff. But there's also this normalcy. I mean, he's like a human being. And one of the things I did early on is I went with him to a park here in Los Angeles. He wanted to take his son to the jungle gym and stuff. And I was like, oh, and he was just like a dad. And I just sort of found that all sort of fascinating. One of Connor's great gifts, I would say, is presence, which
Yes.
makes sense. You can't walk into that octagon and be distracted by all this stuff. But
Right.
even I found like at that park in the car, whatever, he was with me. Like he's just very in the moment when you're with him, and that was fascinating. So he's just a really compelling, interesting character, and that's
Yeah, yeah,
what attracted me.
absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly was one of my questions. What kind of person? How do you go through life and then, decide what you want to do for your career or whatever, and then decide, you you get beat up, I mean, what did you learn, maybe even from Connor or talking to other fighters or whatever, just what is that mentality like, because you're right, you have your public persona and you've got your personal persona for sure, which is so different with all sports figures or anybody,
Yeah.
celebrities, whatever. What did maybe what surprised you most about getting to know Connor that you thought, wow, I didn't expect that?
Yeah, well, what kind of person? He's a fighter, he's a survivor. He's kind of done this. There's something inside of him, obviously, that, enjoys it and is really super competitive. But also, if you look at his backstory, which we touch on in the doc, where he
Yeah.
came from, what he had to overcome, there's always been this, resilience, this ability to pick himself up both obviously in this case literally but also
Hmm.
figuratively over and over and over again, and that sense of resilience that one of the things that really surprised me because as you see in the doc or if you're a fan in general, like
Yeah.
chaos follows this guy. I mean, and not only follows, he generates a lot of it. He's a showman. But I
True.
guess what was also surprising is like amidst all of that, like I said before, there's this presence and there's this focus. And actually, like, and you see it a lot after a lot of the fights,
Yeah.
and I was with him for a few of the fights this past couple of years where he lost. Everyone else gets really distracted and like, the losing is the end of the world and stuff like that. Not for him. Like
Mm.
he sort of has this ability to quickly sort of find the reason in it, the purpose in it, and to spin it into a catalyst for the next fight. And it's a there's a moment in the doc after this big huge fight with Khabib, which is like this the most hyped fight maybe
Yes.
ever in UFC, and he loses, and there's of course chaos in the ring, outside the ring.
Yeah.
People are just going typical UFC Conor McGregor event. And yet in the dressing room afterwards, he's sort of like he sort of, you can see in his brain, he's like, he says, I lost, that's that.
Right.
The rest of it doesn't matter to him, and it's like you can see in him he's trying to like do the math equation. Okay, what can I learn from this? How do I come back from it? And I found that both a little bit surprising because
Hmm.
of all the noise around him, but also
Right.
just inspiring in a way. So
Yeah, yeah. And as a documentarian, of course, you never know what you're going to get, especially when I was just wondering what ended up being the most challenging thing for you to shoot. Was it the fights? Was it just being alone with him? Like,
Yeah.
because you just never know what's going to happen.
Well, you never know, and that's the excitement. They call it unscripted for a reason. You start out with a
Yeah.
plan, and then the plan goes to hell. I think that the fighting's not, the fighting's like the one thing in the calendar that is going to happen. It's really going to happen on time. And I'd say the biggest challenge is Conor is like an international icon.
Right.
Wrangling him, he's all over he lives in Dublin, but he trained in Dubai. He travels all over. He's in Las Vegas. He just like pops up all over the place. You
Yeah.
add to it, pandemic. This thing started in 2019, and then 2020, 2021, et cetera. So there were all sorts of restrictions around that. But yeah, like, so it was really just like getting him, like, and then, but like I said, when you got him, he is like gifted in his ability. Okay, like I'm here, and for the next 20 minutes, all I'm doing is focusing on you, talking about answering your questions. He's very honest,
Mm,
actually, like no pretenses. You ask him a question, he tells you what he thinks, what he feels.
yeah.
He's very self-aware, which was, actually not something maybe I expected. Again, because there's such a showman all the time when you see
Yes.
him in public, but
Yeah.
he's actually like really, he goes internal, pretty instinctive when you ask him to.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's just fascinating. I did learn a lot and try to open my mind a little bit more. You gave me that, so thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today. Best of luck with the series. I know people are going to be very riveted to watch this on Netflix, and I appreciate your time today, Gotham. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for
Okay,
having me.
have a nice day. Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.